What do you got?
I think I can prove to a judge that both of these men had the mens rea.
What the hell is a mens rea?
It's a legal term the lawyers use. It just means the intention to commit a crime.
Okay, come on, let's go.
Mens rea?
Put the cuffs on him.
How could we have gotten mens rea? We take blood? Can you do it without taking blood? We both use condoms. How is this possible? I want to see a doctor. Can I have an independent blood test?
Money!
I feel sick.
What are you doing?
Mens rea! Oh! Oh! My God! No!
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, however good it feels, and however many times you're doing it, why you're doing it in the first place. I don't know. I'm just glad you're doing it here with me, Legal Vices. We have a lot to get through today. We have this bizarre case that I'm trying to wrap my head around any way I can. So I think well, you choose. Either because we have so much stuff, we had to start this early without going through the full introduction, or you might want to believe that I may have accidentally boomered it and clicked the mouse twice instead of just once when I was rearranging things. You decide what happened, but I'm sticking with the first one. We've just got so much to do that I just had to start early. Well, what we're doing here is we're looking at this new case from a Bachelor contestant, Clayton Echard. He's been accused of some really bad stuff. Now, is it just the case of a woman scorned, or is there something to this? We're gonna try to unravel this as best we can. But first of all, we got to do our housekeeping stuff. We've already got 153 people wandering in here. Everybody hit that like button. Only 71 of you have so far. It's like 50% of you aren't doing your job. So just get down there, click the like button. You're here. You came here for a reason. So you're gonna like something either now or later. So just get it out of the way now. And if you're new to the channel, we'll introduce myself a little bit later when we bring up our guest, who will introduce himself to the people that don't know who he is. If you haven't subscribed, hopefully by the end I'll have earned a subscription from you. If you are subscribed, just please double check to make sure you still are, because YouTube can be an asshole sometimes and just unilaterally unsubscribe people for no reason. And our daily like and subscribe poll, just to remind you to do what we've just been talking about for the last minute. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and then vote. How familiar are you with this case? Very familiar. I've heard of it, but only vaguely. Never heard of any of this. And The Bachelor is dreamy, and so is Dave. 28% of you so far are very familiar with this. Wow. Okay. 16% have only heard of it vaguely. 53% have never heard of this, and 3% think The Bachelor is dreamy, and so is Dave. All right, we'll check back in an hour or so and see how that has changed, or if it's changed. Mods, thank you for being here. Chat, thank you for being here. Without any further ado whatsoever, let's bring up our guest for the day, Dave Neal. Hi, Dave.
How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm doing great. Again, this is what I apologize profusely for. I'm so sorry to wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do this.
Look, I'm happy to be here, and I didn't see the survey that said so familiar I'm being sued by this person, because that's where I'm at.
Well, my first one is as familiar as twins are with each other, but I decided not to put that.
I said, man, it's been such a wild year. I got featured on Time Magazine, and now I'm being sued. So it's been a real roller coaster this year.
Wow, just like a former president.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, to introduce myself a little more to you and to the people that may be here because of you. My name is Jeff. My channel is Legal Vices. We talk about legal issues. Right now, we're doing the YNW Melly double murder trial that's supposed to start in March. Courtney Clenny, if that ever starts. Sarah Boone, the OnlyFans killer. We're going to be covering that. The Maya Kowalski thing. I'm going to be having Maya Kowalski's lawyer, Greg Anderson, on next Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. And I was sleeping peacefully, minding my own business when Megan Fox, not the one with the thumbs, the reporter that we all know and love, started sending me text messages at 2 o'clock in the morning. Holy shit, oh my God, look at this. And that's how I became familiar with this case. And it just so happened that it coincided perfectly with a friend of mine who is visiting from China. She's been a friend of mine forever. We met through whiskey. I'm kind of a whiskey aficionado kind of guy, and she's written for whiskey magazines. And she also happens to be like the world's biggest Bachelor fan. It's Abby abroad. She's probably watching. So I said, hey, I know where I can get some information about this. So I asked her about the case, and she was much more interested in giving me the drama behind Clayton Echard's season than the legal drama that she was completely unaware of. But I got the fever a little bit from her. And
that's all it takes. Just a little fever, and now you got a full blown. It's not to use the term "blown" here, but a full blown fever.
And she said to Abby Abraz says, tell Dave that I love him and his wife and think they're awesome. And they did a Love Fest episode with my all-time fave podcast YouTube channel, Dear Shandy, too.
Yep.
So I'm passing along that.
Yeah, we operate in a very loyal niche known as Bachelor Nation, and the podcast covers entertainment news. And this case stumbled into our little home field, and so we've been covering it diligently. Some might say obsessively, but that's the name of the game. 2 videos a day, and we're going to give every single update that comes.
Oh, and there's Abby herself. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Abby.
She made it back to China. Okay, I guess. Oh, good. all right. Oh, and Alan69, thank you so much for that super chat. Says love our vices. Wow, thank you very much. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get involved with The Bachelor?
Well, I stand-up comedian, and I have always covered relationships, and I've been recapping this show for like 8 years. I always enjoyed what happens on the show. About 3 years ago, some wild court stuff happened off the show. Namely, a former contestant put a tracking device under the trunk of his ex-girlfriend's car, and that became a restraining order, as it does. And I covered that story, and my channel blew up from that. He since came out of the closet as gay and had a Netflix documentary about him, but it was a bizarre story. And ever since then, I've covered more what happens off the show than on the show, as that's become more interesting.
And you've been doing that for 8 years now.
Yeah, and like a full time for the last 3 years. It was like a weekly thing, and then over the pandemic, it became daily and hourly, and here we are.
Well, my particular TV vice happens to be Real Housewives, but I've got to switch.
We love Bravo. I mean, Bravo is like it's like a cousin of ours. We once in a while we cross over with Bravo, but it's that same idea, the parasocial world of following people between the episodes. And Bachelor Nation wants all of the inside information on the light gossip. What I've noticed is with this story, it's kind of so heavy, people don't even know how to cover it. So I'm kind of like one of the few people, me and Reality Steve are the only people that have covered this story. All of the other podcasters and content creators have been utterly spineless at any risk of getting themselves sued and haven't covered it. So it's kind of like we've been alone on the battlefield with our little guns waiting for the troops to show up, and we've been alone here holding down the fort.
Well, how did you get involved in this case? Was it just a natural flow from what you were doing things you were covering, or this seems to have stuck with you more than other stuff you've done?
Well, it's just bigger. I mean, this is the biggest Bachelor news story ever. So when there's a breakup, we'll cover it as long as there's people talking and people watching. We'll go back and forth. He said this, she said this, this happened on this podcast. It's just a day by day, kind of like Sports Center style. Well, I just show up to my desk one day, September 19th, I believe, and The Sun has an article about him getting Clayton Echard getting exposed by his ex fling. And I was bummed out because I've gone to bat for Clayton. Seems like a good guy. He got a very bad edit and a lot of people hated him. He was one of the first contestants that wasn't able to make a career right after the show. You used to go on the show and get 1 million followers and get this and get that. He went on and it was like people didn't like him, and he tried his best. His biggest problem was that he was overly honest. He told multiple women in front of each other that he had sex with all of them. And which by the way, is what they do anyway. But
I'm pretty sure they all have done that.
So he was a walk-on D1 football player that made it pro, I believe, for the Seahawks for a brief amount of time. And he seemed to be a good guy, and he seems to have listened to the producers too closely, took some bad advice. And what made him so unlikable with his honesty is kind of the one thing that's gotten him out of this, where he hasn't lied once about anything. But so at first when people saw this article, they go, Clayton's the worst, get him, this is so bad. And then probably within 48 hours, more truths came out that people go, oh my gosh, she's done this to men before. She's done the same thing before. And what it all comes down to, and everything you're going to hear about, is a story of somebody, in my opinion, who gets rejected and then will use being pregnant as a way to keep the other person attached to her. Only this time, we called her out every step of the way, to the point where last week she finally admitted, at least, that she's no longer pregnant, where we've gotten the DNA results from the testing that have actually showed there was little to no fetal DNA. So she most likely was never pregnant in the first place.
Wow. And this might be a good place to mention that how I approach cases like this, and any other cases we stream and comment on, I really don't care if somebody did something or not. What I care about is justice. What I care about is evidence and proof. Can the allegations against someone be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, or with a preponderance of the evidence, or whatever the applicable burden of proof is? So, I mean, people can go and file lawsuits and get somebody and say anything they want to say. It's what can you prove at the end of the day? You can be guilty as sin and they can't prove it, or you can be innocent and they happen to have enough circumstantial evidence to make you look like you did it. So I want to go through and look at the evidence that's presented. And she is laying low. I'm trying not to know her name. You always refer to her as Jane Doe. You've never mentioned her name. Other places are or Janeth Doeth if you're feeling particularly poetic.
The Dodo, we call her.
And I'm going to do the same thing. We'll call her Jane Doe. And part of the problem seems to be that she hasn't been platformed. So Jane Doe, I'm giving a platform to one side of the story. I'm just going to hear one side of the story today. The only thing I've found from her is an article she's written. We'll look at that later, but send me an email. You are welcome to come on, welcome to present whatever evidence you have. I will give you a platform. I will give you the same amount of time as I give to the other side. I want to hear your story. I want to see what evidence you have. It's an open invitation. thelegalvices@gmail.com is the mail address. It's up to you. The offer's been made. So I'm keeping an open mind. Let's see how this goes.
And by the way, just so your audience knows, her lawyers asked my side just yesterday how much money it's going to take to make this go away. What kind of settlement do I want? And I said, it's just not about the money. We offered to have her come on my channel. She's been offered to go on other people's channels. It's at this point, a lot of times it's a he said, she said. What side is everybody on? Yeah. The more surprising thing with this is how it's gotten this far, how people have let this get so far. And it really comes down to every subreddit that's been made to talk about this. She's gotten taken down. She's threatened every other podcaster with lawsuits. She's been able to sniper people off one at a time. She told me for weeks and months when I was talking about the previous court cases, you can't do that. They're all sealed. And then we find out none of it was sealed, and all of the attempts for her to shut this down just have, they've almost made the case stronger. I have a video on my Instagram of her using a 7-year-old ultrasound pretending to be hers. We went through all of the specifics of how she edited it, laid it together. There's a group of like ragtag investigators online that are all private identity that have been pulling all this information off the internet, and everyone's just been 2 steps ahead of her this whole time.
I mean, this is a good question. How does she have so much power? People don't want to be sued. I guess that's kind of it. But I mean, nobody lines up at the courthouse and says, "Please serve me with something, sir. May I have another one, please?"
But boy, I tell you what, people really want justice. Our audience has just been so loyal to this cause. And it's because they know only a few different people have been sticking their neck out there for, I mean, what is this, like 4 or 5 months now? I mean, in up until like a month ago, people were saying, what if she is telling the truth? And then we have to remember, no, look at the evidence. We have to keep on looking at the evidence, which continues to say they first of all never had sex and never. And I mean, now, for the first half of this case, as I was covering it, the audience didn't know that my wife and I were pregnant. And then what I can reveal is that, when you're pregnant, you go to the doctor every 2 or 3 weeks. You care about all these different things. I've got videos of ultrasounds and photos and all of these things that I could present to somebody from the flip of a phone, 10 different ways that I'm pregnant. And she just never did any of that. She just, would say my neurologist notes have this. And I went to this. Here's what she does. She's had about a dozen different lawyers. So she'll tell her lawyers one thing, they'll probably believe her. And then a week later, the lawyers will drop her because they'll be like, oh boy, we actually Googled this. She's kind of like a professional victim. So she'll write an article saying how I'm cyberbullying her. And I just tell people, look, if she wants to put my name in her article, people are going to Google me and eventually they're going to stumble upon the truth. And I'm okay with that.
Oh, wow. Let's I guess we can go full Sound of Music and start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. But before we get there, just a couple of quick things here. Nick Staro's trial watch with the 50 Swedish sexy monies. Thank you so much. Oh, look, it's The Bachelor and the Beast. Thanks, Nick. Robin, no, I don't have Bradley Cooper on. Stop. Do you get that a lot?
I always say I'm the poor version in Limitless before he took the pill to be successful. That's who I am.
And Manders, thank you so much for the legal advices, gifted memberships. If you're one of the 5 lucky folks, give Manders a super special thanks. Thank you very much. And Marv White says, I'm supposed to have 17 minutes after the hour. Yeah, I'm always accused of just bullshitting for 17 minutes before I finally get down to the meat of what I'm going to talk about that day. But we jumped into it quick. Law Talk with Mike got an email. Well, as soon as Megan sent me all of the information, then I went and watched Law Talk with Mike's video, and I saw you on Law Talk with Mike and his reaction to the letter he got. What do you want? It's public. It's a court. Courtrooms are open in the U.S. You can watch any trial, and it's there. It's open.
I think she's used to the defense. Yeah, she's used to the defense of like no one caring about this because it's family court. And because of that, her main response is, I don't get why this YouTuber cares about my reproductive rights. And it's like, Jane, no one cares about you. This is about getting this guy back restored into society from all the damage you've done and the hundreds of thousands of dollars you've cost in legal fees to all these different men.
And it should be something that if this was happening to you, you should want to get your own justice. You should want him to be held accountable, and you should be doing the same thing, trying to go on people's shows and get your evidence and information out there if you feel like you're not getting it in the courts. And like I said, I searched and I haven't been able to find much other than this article that she wrote that she has put out in support of her evidence. So, whatever's out there, I haven't seen it yet. And I'd be happy to see if she's got something, but this all seems to have started around May as best I can tell. Clayton's a real estate agent.
Yeah. I mean, he gets into real estate. We don't even know how she found him. She claims she didn't follow The Bachelor, and then all these photos come up with her with former bachelors. But in my humble opinion, he was just a mark. He was a guy that was notable enough that she could come after, and they hook up. Yeah. And that was May 20th. And I think within days, he's like, hey, this isn't going to be a thing. We need to not, do this, blah, blah, blah. She files a complaint with his real estate board, like trying to get him, whatever violation he made. And then that's where it starts to get messy. And they go back and forth, and he's like, please stop talking to me. Like, he goes no contact with her. And then within days, she's like, hey, by the way, I'm pregnant. And he's like, no, you're not. And then it goes back and forth. And she's like, I want to go to family court to get a parenting plan to make sure, and that's when the control starts happening.
Well, now you said hookup. If we look at this, he said, I got a blowjob. She says we had an intimate encounter.
Yeah. I mean,
Now
intimate for her,
they're not,
maybe.
yeah, they're not mutually exclusive terms.
Yeah, she never said they had sex. She started months later, she started to make crazy accusations of him, but she never said they had sex. What the most interesting part was when this article came out is she said they were intimate, but then she dumped all of these emails to prove he's a bad guy, and she redacted his personal info and redacted his phone number, but then she redacted a line. And then I got a hold of the original email, and the line said, "Hey Jane, we only had oral sex." And when the fact that she left that out on purpose, along with a few other things, made everyone go, "Oh man, this is crazy. We all got duped." Everybody turned around and changed their opinion. And now once the critical eye was on her, you could start seeing all of the other lies. I mean, the article she made in the Sun, she put enough, she has like enough of an ego where she like included she was a TEDx speaker. She included she was a podcast host from Scottsdale. People were able to find her information out right away. So she wanted to keep this private, but also public enough to damage the guy so that she could then maybe have a victim story about this in the future. Like, it's really hard to know the motive because it doesn't seem like she was after money, but it seems like she was after control.
Yeah, I mean, if see, my problem is when I first heard about this thing, okay, just a blowjob, my evil degenerate brain goes, well, I still might in some really icky way be possible to get pregnant too from just a blowjob.
Oh, we spent a whole week on that.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone was Googling turkey basters, and we had a whole thing there, and it is possible. But what I've had to like land on is, okay, we just have what we know now, not to spoil it, is that she says she's no longer pregnant. So and then once we found out she claimed she was pregnant with twins before with another guy, then all of these hypotheticals start to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you go, okay, all right. So what are the odds that this happened with the other guy? Again, this has happened with at least two men before, and she'll claim that they've got an axe to grind because she has restraining orders against them. The truth is, she does have restraining orders against them. What we've learned is she gets these so quickly and easily that then she uses that to convince people that she's telling the truth. And what I've learned is you can pretty much just get a restraining order against anybody you've hooked up with. And I'm not sure of this, but I was told that in Arizona, a judge can be held liable if something happens if they deny the restraining order. So I just feel like they're very conservative with that. With me, she tried to get a restraining order, but the judge said, hey, you haven't even met this guy. We can't do that. So my only protection from her is that I have not been intimate with her.
I mean, in a lot of places, it is very easy to get the restraining orders because, like you said, that you don't want to not give one where it's warranted, and a lot of people will. I mean, a lot of times the questions are just that: tell me what happened. Are you in fear for your safety? Yes. Okay, you get a temporary, hours, weeks, month, year long thing, just to err on the side of caution. So it's not incredibly difficult to get one. So you do have a point there.
And I knew when the first article came out, the wording she used in the article was bananas. She said she went to Scottsdale police, and we saw all the police records. It's all on my channel. She said she was afraid for her unborn baby's safety. And like I said, I've seen this guy Clayton. Sure, he's 6'5", super strong. He's a soft guy. He's a really soft guy. He talks about mental health issues and all this. I go, this is crazy. Well, as it turns out, she was telling Clayton when he went no contact, he wasn't talking to her. She was saying, if you don't promise me you're not going to hurt me, I'm going to take that as a sign that you might hurt me. And he doesn't respond. So she takes that to Scottsdale police. It's fan fiction. It's all fan fiction. There were no unborn babies. She knew that. Yeah. She used it against him, and she used it as a way to get him to talk to her. And then the crazy part happens. That was actually the normal part for her story. The crazy part was the contracts came out. So this didn't happen right away, but she actually tried to get Clayton to do a several week-long contract where they try to date, as she says, with intention. And by that, I think she meant, give me a shot. If you give me a shot and date me, I will let you decide what we do with the unborn babies. So she was so afraid about their safety, and yet she was willing to let him get them aborted if she dated him. What we know with the previous guy, Greg, is that she claims Greg coerced her into an abortion with her twins then, which we don't believe she was actually pregnant then. And I don't understand why it's such a crime for me to not believe her. You know what I mean? Like the thing she's suing me for essentially is just not believing her. I don't believe she was pregnant then. I believe if she did do this contract with Clayton and then he did convince her to get the abortion, it would make that storyline go away. But then I believe she would use that for her next fan fiction thing about another coerced abort. And the judge ruled in the previous case, there really isn't a coerced abortion. He didn't throw the pills down your throat. He just said, I would like you to not keep these babies, you know?
Well, what evidence has she presented that she was pregnant? I'm assuming there's been a couple of pregnancy tests or doctor visits.
The pregnancy test is interesting. She passed a HCG test, which of course can be not faked, but you can have HCG and not be pregnant. It's a hormonal thing. You could be on fertility drugs. You could literally have had HCG injections. You could fake a pregnancy test with apple juice or any other form. We don't know to this date how closely Clayton watched her take the test, but she did test positive for something in his vicinity that never led to a positive test anywhere else. No ultrasounds, none of that. So she in her mind says, well, I tested positive, and she's run with that. And that gets you the initial story, but that doesn't get you to month 2, 3, 4, and so on. So that's the big concern, is what the hell happened with those pregnant. Maybe they were dollar store pregnancy tests. We don't know.
Well, so I guess so. She probably took one herself before. I guess he asked her to take a test, or she said, come and watch, or do you know how that played out?
Well, here's what's crazy, right? The crazier this story gets, the crazier the theories get. I mean, there are theories that they use HCG for horses and she runs a small horse farm. There are theories that she doesn't want to reveal her medical records because maybe she's been on fertility medication. Her sister had a baby last year, and maybe she's the odd duck in the family and she wants the love in the family. I mean, these aren't random theories, because you see in some of the email evidence that she had that she did want a man in her life and a family and all of that. So it's really sad in that way. But at the same time, you can't go about it by just like trying to rope these guys in. Just for the record, she's back on dating apps in Scottsdale, and she's on the dating apps that are like the elusive ones where like the CEOs and the athletes, and they all go on, and it's like, oh my gosh, who's next? That's the big question. Who's next? So on her end, it's all damage control, trying to keep this thing under the surface. On my end, I want the truth to come out, because it's going to keep her from continuing to try to sue me here. And no one really knows. Yeah, no one knows exactly what happened with those pregnancy tests, but by all means, she was pretty confident she was going to test positive after giving a blowjob. So that's all we know.
That must have been a pretty impressive blowjob.
She's good at what she does.
Yeah, geez. So, all right. We'll, and we have. I mean, guys, they have the Wizinator for smuggling in urine to take tests for sports and work and whatnot for observed. I'm sure there are plenty of things out there for women, but so we don't know. We don't know what she is. Maybe it was hers. Maybe it was somebody else's. We don't know, because she hasn't come forward and presented any evidence of.
I'll say this: if I had been in this situation and someone was taking a test, I don't know if I would be looking at their crotch as they're peeing on it. I don't know if I would do that, just out of politeness. So I've yet to speak about Clayton with those specifics. But yeah, I mean, when my wife got pregnant, we were like, oh my God, we were just surprised because we were beginning to try, but it was new. And I was like, we didn't get pregnant that fast. I was like, my Irish family multiplies, but I was like, and then we looked into her, like, maybe you were on hormones or maybe you were on this. And a lot of what people say is, most times those things are pretty accurate, but if you are trying to trip it, there are ways. And she did, again, after the stick test, the only time she tested positive was going to a clinic where she specifically tested positive for HCG. And people have just looked at that and said, look, this wasn't enough. Like that's as far as it gets, as far as proof she has. That's the end. After that, it becomes fraudulent ultrasounds. And again, you might say, well, maybe that's why she said she was pregnant. But under oath in a court, she said she was pregnant up until something like 22 to 24 weeks, past the date where you can just say you had a miscarriage. I mean, we're talking stillbirth, death certificates. This has to be, and it's insulting. It's really insulting to anyone who's had a miscarriage or lost a baby. It's insulting to people trying to have babies. And this is why the audience has, I think, been so irate with her that she'll flippantly use the family court system. These Scottsdale police have probably spent hundreds of hours from her phone calls looking at, evidence. She's trying to, she's convinced all of her exes are online trying to get her, when in fact it's just good Samaritans. And she's clogging up. I say this, she's like after going to Taco Bell, she's just clogging up this system of that is meant for good, and people want it to end.
Well, she did take the step of filing a lawsuit against Clayton. I haven't been able to find a copy of the submission, a copy of her actual lawsuit. What is it that she's claiming? What is it she wanted in her lawsuit?
It was I believe it's just a parenting plan. You file these lawsuits in family court, and it's a way to, you have to determine paternity. And then after that, it's like, what's it going to be? 50-50 split. What's the custody, this and that? Well, her big out was once she realized she was no longer pregnant, which was about a week ago. I get a text message from a source going, oh my gosh, she now says she's not pregnant. And it's what we believed. We thought she would either have a miscarriage, and then when the time passed, we thought she would claim stillbirth. We thought she might even leave the country and claim she got a late term abortion. We thought maybe she would claim that she gave them up for adoption, to the point where, I'll say this. I'll tell you about that court case, but it involves me somehow. She wrote this article about me, and the case was kind of going away. It was December. And then everyone who knows I've been covering this, everyone who read the article got so sick in their stomach that she was making me out to be the bad guy when I've never said her name or showed her face or made fun of her or done any of this. Right. So Clayton's lawyers, basically, he's got no money left to cover this. They said, you know what? We want to see this thing through. So they wanted to not only prove that he wasn't the father, but they wanted to prove non-paternity. But they also filed paperwork, I think very specifically in the Arizona court system, that proved that he was the father, so that if she did claim to give the babies up for adoption, that would have been bullshit, because they would have had to go through him first. So if she didn't want the babies, he gets them next. So they filed all of the paperwork to cover their bases in every direction. And then after they do all that, she goes, well, I'm no longer pregnant. So her lawyer, who she hired, Lexi Linval, who then dropped her within a week, her lawyer, tried to state some case law that said, well, now that the case is moot, we can no longer try it, so the judge should dismiss the case. So she basically farts in the elevator, then wants to get off the elevator. And everyone's like, no, you can't get off the elevator. We need to prove you farted on this elevator. And it's very reasonable. So Clayton's side is saying, no, we need to prove that you made this up. He's asked her to get a sworn statement that she was never pregnant, because we all know now that she's made articles about me and drawing traffic back to her name as some victim of cyberbullying, everyone knows in a year or two, she's going to come back out of nowhere with a TED Talk or a podcast or a book claiming that The Bachelor ruined her life. And everyone knows this isn't going away. It has to be pursued to the fullest extent. So right now, we're waiting on the judge to decide if he's going to dismiss this case or not. January 17th, she's set for a deposition. And let me tell you, Clayton's lawyers, they are some bad bitches. They are coming after her. They've had their own babies. They're insulted by this. And they are just really getting down to the truth here.
Yeah, nobody wants to be subjected to a deposition if you can at all avoid it, and especially if it's under the situation, the scenario that you're presenting with some parents. It's going to be aggressive, I think, and she's got to have the answers.
Well,
But-
she's just caught herself in so many lies. So you said, well, she's never putting her name to everything. Well, on Reddit for the first month or so, she would fight back and forth with people. All of this is documented. Everything she has said is documented. She's changed stories and none of it lines up. And she's been under oath saying she's pregnant. The most interesting part was when she took Clayton to court, when they finally had their court date. She didn't realize this, but they were going to live stream the court case. So she zooms in or whatever through Microsoft tablet or whatever. She zooms in and she shows her frame, and it's from the midpoint of her belly, and she's standing up, which if anyone knows, if you're pregnant, you don't want to stand up for too long. She's on one of these like adjustable desks, I'm assuming, and she's standing up for a 2-hour case. What she didn't realize is that the whole world was watching. Now, there might have only been a few thousand people, but I texted Clayton afterwards and I said, hey man, you did a good job. You did a good job in there. And he was like, were you in the room? You know, he was confused. He was like, I didn't see you in there. I was like, Bubba, they live stream this to everybody. He was so relieved that audiences were going to get to see how insane this was. So not only did she most likely wear a prosthetic, she asked the judge, can I show the baby to Clayton? Yeah. And this is what she does. She wants to convince people she's pregnant, like on a one-on-one, but she doesn't want the scrutiny of the public having a look at it. So the public got to see that and they were like, oh my gosh, there was moments where she moved the baby and the belly didn't move right. You've got neonatal nurses commenting about the fundal height. I'm looking up terminology. And then at some point, she's taking swigs of Monster energy drinks. Now, my wife, she loves caffeine like the rest of them. At best, you have to get like a half decaf latte. At best, you can only have 50 milligrams or whatever of caffeine. She's pounding Monster Energy. People are trying to dissect where the prosthetic ends, what's real, what's not. I can tell you this, and I haven't told this to anyone publicly, is that we had a source come forward, fully vetted, in the inner circle, that says they saw her in person. And again, she hasn't left her property, so this is a very tight source here. And they saw her, skinny as a bone, end of November, early December. So that's what those types of people are starting to talk and starting to come out and say enough is enough. They first heard about me when her father made a Facebook thing defending her, which a lot of people don't even believe was her father because he's very sick. And he's got full-time care and he's very sick. And because people heard about me through that, they looked online and then they heard the truth or realized I'm not some big bad wolf. And then I think this one source that came forward felt so bad. They said they had a pit in their stomach that they thought I was this bad guy and they wanted to make it right. So a lot of people are trying to make this thing right now.
Well, Megan Fox is super chatted. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat, Megan Fox. Let's call her Beetlejuice. Jeff, have you read the response to the motion to dismiss? It's fire. Yes, and that's one thing. If we have a little bit of time here at the end, we want to get through because that is a very, very well written response to the motion to dismiss. So we were just talking about that, and also we'll get to that if we can around the end. And the hearing you were talking about, I believe, was the November 2nd hearing. It was the end of October and one at the beginning of November.
So it started in October. We watched this hearing, right? He had already, at this point, it wasn't looking good. He shows up to court, God bless him. He doesn't have a lawyer. He's wearing a t-shirt and he's like, all right, he's naive. He goes, I'm going to tell the truth. It's what he did on The Bachelor. He goes, I'm just going to tell the truth. It'll be great. And we all watched this with our jaw dropped as her lawyer objects to everything. And we go, oh my gosh, he's going to lose.
Have a lawyer.
Yeah. He's going to lose. This is crazy. Even though maybe he wouldn't have. The judge was very much like over her bullshit. So her lawyer tries to present him with a thumb drive of evidence, like right during court. And he's like, I didn't bring a laptop. What are we doing? And because this is supposed to be like a 20-minute court case, it's already an hour and a half in. The judge goes, let's meet back in 2 weeks. And at that point, I was so irate. I said, this has to be fair. We organized a GoFundMe. We raised money for him on the spot. Within a day, people donated 10 grand. A lot of people gave him shit like, oh, isn't he rich and successful? He's been trying to like build an Airbnb, so he's knee deep in all that. He thought he could take care of all this, and we said no. Get the legal help, because it's not, and I've said this before, he's my lead blocker. If he loses all these court cases, she's going to have a stronger, desire to come after me, and it's like the buck has to stop here. So when he comes back, he didn't just come back with any old lawyer. He came back with the lawyers that represented the previous guy. So these lawyers already knew all of the info about her. What had happened, very tragically, is that with the previous guy, the lawyers had actually pulled out, in part because she wrote a letter to the judge. And this is information that's out there.
Now that video also is on Schnitzel Ninja, I believe is the channel.
Right. And some of these videos have already been taken down because she's coming after everyone. But a letter was written directly to the judge, which is, I'm not a legal person, so I didn't know if this is right or not. And the judge, in that letter, she accuses the lawyer along with Greg. It's Greg Gillespie, the guy, the guy that she claims got her knocked up. And then the lawyer is named Greg Woodnick. She accused them of conspiring to rape. And my guess is they were already doing this case like virtually for free. My guess is the lawyer's wife was like, get the hell out of there. Get out of this, because without all of the proper information. And at the time, this was a sort of like a private citizen, like it didn't have the publicity. Now that there's publicity and strength behind it, my guess is Woodnick felt like they needed to pursue this justice harder. And so they came back and know kind of how to attack this situation better.
Yeah, you don't get to send one-way communications to the judges.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the same thing where she'll do this. She'll file some sort of complaint with FBI's database, and then they'll be like, this sounds crazy. She did the same to me. So she starts telling people, I've got the FBI investigating this YouTuber for all these crimes. And you go, oh my gosh, this sounds horrible. My lawyer has to spend all of his time and energy being like, are you investigating my client? And they say, no, but we did look into it because, of course, she claims all of these federal codes. And I was accused of revenge porn and all, crazy stuff. Right. And it's just wrong. But she gets a fragment of information. And then she says, yeah, I have information that I'm investigating. And then people go, well, if there's an investigation happening, what I've learned is humanity, we want to believe people are telling the truth. So this isn't like a case against believing women. This is just believe people and then pursue the evidence. And the evidence is now making us believe Clayton, which I think is the right side to be on.
Well, I think that's one thing that the Amber Heard case taught us is that you don't just default get to be believed because you have tits. And
that's something with my audience being all women, like 92% of my audience is women. That's something that they are adamant about. Like in order for us to believe victims, we need to weed out the people that are abusing the very honest beliefs that people have. I mean, there are so many good-natured people here that put their neck on the line for her. And we have information to believe she's actually receiving funds from some of these different organizations, the ACLU in the past, fertility organizations, different groups. We have information that good-hearted people in their donations have gone towards her, not understanding the full story. And it's like my mom, single mom, left my dad, a little abusive, and, just it makes you get really upset. So the only good that's come of this so far is whenever we have a single mom out there with a baby registry. The other day we had a single mom, 24 years old, in our community, post her baby registry online. 60 gifts arrived to her. She's got a crib now. Like, let's take this energy and do something good and prove that we're not all just assholes, and that, like, there are good people out here, and we just need to weed out the people that are abusing that good faith.
When we're kind of, because you said you had 90 minutes, give or take, to be about halfway through. So I want to make sure that people that don't know you, to make sure they go to Dave Neal Comedian on YouTube.
Yes.
That's where we can find you.
I've got a whole playlist with all of the videos of the fake ultrasounds, all of the dockets. It's all on a Clayton Echard paternity scandal. And then also my day-to-day updates, all of the nitty-gritty that doesn't make it onto YouTube is on my podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour. It's not just Bachelor content. I cover like pop culture, like all water cooler stories, Oscars, whatever's in the news legally or also just gossipy. I've got it over there. And I do that twice a day. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon for the rush hour drive. So yeah, that's what I do.
And where, other than YouTube, anywhere else that we should find you at?
Just a podcast, and then I'm on Instagram if anyone wants to come to a stand-up show. We have a lot of audience coming to stand-up shows that have been following this case, and I'm starting to tell the story on stage in a way that I'm trying to find the humor in it. But my Instagram is dneals. People can go find me there too.
Robin Richards says, Dave Neal's the best. This case has been my Roman Empire.
Sadly.
John Gordon has been a member for 10 months. Says, whoa, here she comes. Watch out, boy. She'll chew you up. Whoa, here she comes. She's a man eater.
She's a man swallower too.
Dang, you beat me to it. Boom Boom has become a new member. Thank you so much for joining the Clean and Sober crew. Glad to have you here. Damn it, I hate when people. That's why you're the comedian and I'm not.
Well, I mean, I think one
ahead of me.
The last time I was on someone else's channel, it made it into the court papers. So I'm sure she's got her monster energy and Chat GPT ready to fire off another lawsuit here. But we'll see. We'll see what makes its way to the Superior Court on February 8th.
Well, she's got my email. She wants to be on. I'll platform her and let her give her side of the story. But it sounds like she wants this to go away right now. I mean, one thing that can be done. Let's check on our polls. See how we're doing here with the poll. We've got 572 people here now, and 315 likes. It's like 250 if you haven't done your job. Hit that like button. Come on, you like Dave, you like me. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So make sure you go subscribe to him, like every video he's ever done, because there's like a billion of them. And make sure you subscribe to him. Make sure you're subscribed to me. And our little like and subscribe poll today. So far, 28% of you say you're very familiar with this case. 11% of you say that you've heard of it, but only vaguely. And 57% have never heard any of this. So looking at the numbers, there's about 300 people that are hearing this for the very first time. And of course, the 4% say, hey, The Bachelor's dreamy, and so is Dave. Sorry, ladies, he's taken. And I think the Bachelors are all going to be a little more careful now.
We like compliments though, so bring it on, ladies. So I've said this kind of like ad nauseum that this probably will become some form of a documentary. And she goes, "Oh, you're just trying to make money." It's like, trust me, documentaries don't make money. But I always think of like the picture of this all. Like, what's the through line? How do you tell this story as a documentary? And I think it's the underground movement of the vigilantes out there that have wanted justice. I mean, people have poured hours into this just to get the truth out there. There's this private community called The Flock. They vet all their members. I'm not even in the community, but they do all of this research and they try to get it out there. And it's like, I think if she didn't do this to somebody and didn't make this public, she flew a little too close to the sun. Mm-hmm. If she did this to another random guy, we wouldn't be talking about this, and that's the scary part.
Well, what about her? I'm assuming she's taking the point of view that I'm just a little old, real estate person. I'm not a super famous public person. Leave me alone.
Yeah, she calls herself. She's trying to play it both ways. She says, "Oh, I'm just me, me, oh my," but literally on her Instagram bio, it said public figure. I mean, she had what she considered a popular podcast with her mom. Her parents are quasi famous in their own respect as journalists and radio hosts and this and that. And you just can't have it both ways. So if you're using this case to then have TEDx talks, and again, we live in that world where like defamation was decided on you're either public or you're private. And now we kind of live in a world where you're not always Johnny Carson, but you're not always private. And I think it's the pursuit. Her pursuit is to have a successful podcast, which is to be a public figure here. And she needs to start acting like one.
Well, if you call yourself one, it's kind of hard to say you're not one.
Yeah, and I mean verified on Instagram and all these other things. But yeah, she that the motive's hard because she didn't want to go out publicly, but at some point I think she just realized she had to maybe play the victim quicker. So it's my belief she was always going to play the victim here. Tell her story. Like her previous TEDx talk is about like a big bad bully of a boyfriend, on a flight somewhere. And it's my belief that whole thing that happened there was while she was under one of those intention contracts with him, trying to like see if the relationship will work out. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's hard to piece some of these older cases together because, what you understand how big shame is. And to me, it feels like this guy number one named Mike, there's a lot of shame probably where he's like, he got duped. He doesn't want to be public. Greg didn't want to be public, but he's, he had to, when he started dating his girlfriend now, who's about to have a baby, he had to explain to her like, hey, I've been in this lawsuit. And when I had to explain to my landlord who I share this house with, when I had to explain to him that a process server was probably going to serve me papers that I'm being sued, you feel like you're the bad guy. And I had to be like, listen, trust me, I'm not, you start feeling.
What are you bringing into the neighborhood?
Yeah. And it's like, I live in East LA, this is gang territory. So if I'm the bad guy here, I mean, but it's, you quickly see why people would want to be quiet. They want it to go away. They don't want to talk about it. Now in these new court documents that we've seen, she talks about a guy named Andrew who was also being investigated by the FBI. I'm shuffling through my papers. 5 months later, I just find out about Andrew. Who else is there? She wrote this crazy email that was revealed in the latest motion. So this is a little complicated. It's crazy. She writes an email to her mom. I say that in quotes because I don't know if the mom was involved or not. It's bad either way. Either she made up her mom being involved or her mom's also complicit. Then the mom sends an email to Clayton saying, hey, our daughter's claiming she's going to self-harm. She's claiming she's suicidal. We think you're the only one that can get in touch with her. Will you send her a text message or call her? And in the email that Jane sent to her mom, and by the way, nobody sends emails to their parents. You call them, you text them. Red flag, first of all. But in the email, which you can see on my YouTube channel,
my dad still has a VCR and it's still flashing 12. So
yeah. So in the email, she mentions like Clayton thinks he's this celebrity that I want to be with. What he doesn't realize is I've been with way more successful people. And then she lists the three guys. She goes, like Garrett, the billionaire, the founder of Uber. So she lists the people that are Googleable. She goes like Dean, parentheses, Lewis, a very, I'm old school, so I didn't know Dean Lewis, but he's a very successful musician. And then she goes like whatever this other guy name was, who was an Olympian. So she names all these people to her mom. And my thought is she knew this email was going to make it to Clayton, and she wanted to show Clayton, I've got other options. And it's like, listen, motherfucker, now we all know how crazy that none of these guys have come forward saying they dated her. Maybe she did date Garrett, the Canadian billionaire who founded Uber, but she can't use all this information. It's so manipulative. So manipulative.
I have a question for you. Have you ever sat back and listened to how absolutely insane you sound when you say this story and think, oh my God, I sound insane telling this story, but this is wild.
When I was first getting sued, back in the glory days of November, when I was on my vacation in the Maldives with my pregnant wife, trying to relax, when I was first getting sued, I then called lawyers, and I would say, and I've never been so confident in my life that I've got a product to sell. And I've said, listen, guys, I'm about to drop your jaws when I share this for you. And sure enough, every single time I talked to someone, they were like, what? And that was before I haven't even shared with you the fake, the Chase J. Jones character. I mean, there's so many layers that get crazier and crazier with this.
I mean, how do you deal with that when you have people going, cute story, Dave?
When I went home to my family and there was a big family dinner, I said, listen, if you want to hear the story, and everyone's got ADHD, everyone's talking all, I'm like, if you want to hear the story, y'all need to shut up and carve out the next hour. And sure enough, it was at a family party. 3 people would listen, and then the 4th, and then, wait, she did what? hold on, they didn't even have sex. They, just one after another would come in, and I've before stand-up shows, I've had comedians be like, "Hey, how's that lawsuit going?" And I'll start to talk to them, and then people would start to turn their chairs around, and next thing you know, the attention's on this story and not the stand-up show. And then what I've realized is, oh, this is probably the most interesting entertainment news story of the year. And it's for sure, it's not one of those crazy stories with billionaire crypto and this and that. It's very niche. But it exposes how fraudulent people can be when working in these like little family court systems.
But I mean, it's just such a crazy story that I think can be cleared up very easily. But it's not being done that way. Just bring your evidence. Bring it. And it's not happening.
What becomes interesting is, will a judge in family court get a court-ordered like paternity test? And at this point, and people say, well, why twins? Why was it twins? Like, what's
That's what I was going to say. Let's just get a few DNA tests. But
at the time, there was this thing where you couldn't test paternity DNA pre-birth on twins. And then Clayton, very much wanting to prove his innocence, found Ravgen, a new groundbreaking technology that
we can do that now.
Yeah, so there are places that will test in the blood. So, and he was so paranoid. He goes, "How do I know she's going to share her blood?" And and they go, "We're going to go to her place." So he pays the $900. He gives his DNA test. I think he goes to the facility, does it. They go to her. And at this point, up until this point, she didn't think they could test for this. So my guess is she was like, all right, can't prove paternity, whatever. And then they're like, oh, no, we can do that now. And she's like, oh, fuck, science, shit. And then
that's kind of what I'm saying. I am today years old because my sister has twins, and not that there was any question, but that was part of the. She was a nurse back then as well. As it's because when you test, for those that don't know, you'd think, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is when you're testing the paternity of a fetus, it has to be that fetus. And of course, although we can assume logically that both of the fetuses share one parent, that is actually not a complete. You can't say fetus 1 and fetus 2. Fetus 1 has this DNA because everything is circulating between the fetuses. You can't specifically say this DNA came from fetus number 1, so therefore fetus number 1 is from this father.
So
we can do that.
It's a great way to put it, right? So they do the test, and you go, all right, maybe they won't be, maybe the test, maybe they can't find out whose DNA is who. But after the test comes back, and so as the test, so meanwhile, I was on my baby moon in the Maldives. I'm coming back from which is south of India. It's so far away. My flight is flying through Qatar. It's early December, or no, it's before that. Whenever it was, I don't remember. Maybe early November, actually. Whenever it was, I'm flying through Qatar. I have a layover. The last half an hour before I have to board a 16-hour flight home, there's an Instagram story from Clayton Echard. I'm not the father. Little to no fetal DNA. He does this crazy story. He's excited. He's finally vindicated. Little to no fetal DNA. So even if we're not proving paternity, those test results proved that there is no baby there. And you might say, well, little to no. This was supposed to be probably around 15 or 16 weeks. They say they can test this as early as 8 weeks. And anybody who's had a baby says, oh, there's so much fetal DNA. There's fetal DNA everywhere. Where's the fetal DNA? Where's it hiding? Is it behind an ovary? Where do we find this stuff? Do we believe science now? And she goes, well, I drank too much water, and the Monster Energy killed the sperm, whatever she said, right? So they did the test again. Little to no fetal DNA. They did it again. The test results got lost in transit, so they couldn't test them in time. Convenient. So, it was just wild. Just wild. She still claims the tests were faulty. She refuses to take a fourth test. And even if you're not pregnant anymore, my belief is that you can still know if someone was recently pregnant based on their hormone levels and things like that.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned earlier, I believe it's the 20 week. Is 20 weeks the cutoff, or is 24 weeks the cutoff where death certificates and things like that have to be involved?
In Arizona, I believe 20.
Okay. Yeah, you just can't have a nearly 6-month fetus and just pretend it never happened. At
It's
some point, you have to account for it.
It's a goddamn tragedy, right? I had a family member recently have a stillbirth, and they do the foot, the death certificate with the foot, prints and all this, and it's like, God, man, it makes you so mad that she's hiding behind these types of sort of these things, and the people that, and then we had to go, me and, like I said, Reality Steve, I got to shout him out. He's been the only content creator covering this in the Bachelor world. We've had to put our neck on the line to say, guys, I hate to say it, I think she's going to fake a miscarriage. We've had to say these things out loud to call her out before she did it, because that was the gameplay. So that when she did do it, we don't just go, oh, bless these unborn children, you were right. No. That's not, so calling her bluff was really important. And then now she just says, well, since I'm no longer pregnant, it can go away. And Clayton goes, well, what if these are my kids and you're no longer pregnant? Does that mean you gave birth? I mean, you could technically give birth that early. Yeah. A lot of times twins actually, I think, only have a 38-week gestation period, right? I'm learning all this stuff I don't need to know. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, he needs to pursue this to make sure she didn't harm his unborn kids, which we don't believe exist, but he needs to pursue it in those ways to say, I would like to prove that they weren't mine, so there isn't some shadow of a doubt that I'm being haunted by these unborn fake babies that you claim you're no longer pregnant with. Where are they? Show us the evidence.
Well, we have a question here that now would be a perfect time to address it. This is from Boober. Well, is this just about faking a pregnancy, or am I missing something? Hardly seems worth talking about. Why is this case of just someone maybe not pregnant? Why is it worth talking about?
It's interesting. Yeah, this might not be the biggest story to the random person, but it's the only story to Clayton and those involved. And it's about damaging and threatening people. So look, I say it this way. If men were the gender that gave birth, you bet your bottom dollar a percentage of men, when they get dumped by the lady and they're heartbroken, we'd be like, but I'm pregnant, text me. It's not a gender thing. It's the ability to use your body and your what only you know about your body to control somebody else. So why is it interesting? It's kind of just like a terrible precedent, and one that I've actually heard a lot of people have dealt with fake pregnancies, that I think there should be, maybe, I don't know if there's a policy or what, I don't know how it should be dealt with, but with science moving forward, there should be quick over-the-counter ways to prove if you were pregnant within the last few months or whatever, just to like clear up the faking of this stuff. Because pregnancy, like bringing life into this world, I think is something that should be a little bit more of a cherished topic than just, using it because you feel sad that you got dumped.
And when you engage the court system into it and try to bring the power of the government after someone, yeah, you better have truth on your side.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen people that get killed because of swatting incidents, and I've had to worry about some stuff like that. And Clayton dealing with the Scottsdale police. I mean, imagine if they show up and he doesn't want to open the door, and next thing you know, something goes down. I mean, it's just like, we don't need to be calling the cops for any reason other than to serve and protect. And in this case, while, yeah, it could just be like a fake pregnancy, that should be dealt with in a way that, like, it shouldn't have gotten this far. And that's why the case, like, this wouldn't have been a story if June 2nd, she confessed to it and moved on, or, oh, I'm gonna have an abortion, whatever. She could have faked the pregnancy, and then they could have had an abortion. It could have ended. It's a case because she made it public. She brought it to smear somebody. She created, in my opinion, fake people to cancel him. She's weaponized different movements. And it's like, and this is the third guy. So when's it going to stop? I mean, is she going to start franchising out and building upon this way she lies? Is she going to sell a sort of a PDF to people? So how to keep your man, is this going to be like the next how to keep a guy in 10 days? Just say you're pregnant.
See, it's the question of, I mean, just the fact people are saying, well, this is only just about this, whether or not someone's faking a pregnancy. That question itself is kind of maybe part of the problem.
Yes. And honestly, and again, I'm not patting myself on the back. She just happened to enter a niche that is rabid for truth and justice, rabid for this. So she might have gotten away with this in a different way, and she has in the past. But like this audience, like this is exactly the type of story this audience wants covered. And so many times I think what happens with fake accusations is the person just throws a few dollars and it goes away. And she can't buy me, she can't buy Clayton, and she can't buy her way out of this. And I think people like that. I mean, we always hate it when someone accuses someone else of something and then a week later it just goes away. And you're like, oh, come on. We all wanted to see justice. We all wanted to see how this plays out. Well, now an audience gets to see how it's going to play out.
Well, she does want to dismiss the case. She filed her motion to dismiss.
Not only that, she wanted this case dismissed so fast before the deposition. We got to dismiss this case. She wants the judge to decide before the deposition. My guess is this judge is very curious to see how it plays out. Like I said, the court, the Clayton side is arguing that there's plenty of case study that says even if you're not pregnant, you entered this believing that you were pregnant, so we have to operate under those terms and see this through. If the judge dismisses it, will Clayton go to civil court? Then it's just be like, if my guess is if Jane Doe can kick this can far enough down the road, she'll get away with it, at least in the court system. And I don't think anyone wants to see that happen.
Well, now, right now, I don't know if she has a lawyer right now, but I know she got one at the end of the year and her new lawyer was gone in about a week. And
that new lawyer withdrew with her consent, which means the lawyer didn't have to say why. In previous cases, like the email that she sent to the judge claiming that there was a rape conspiracy against her. In that case, she actually talks about her previous lawyer that she filed a complaint against in the bar. So look, if you're going to represent her, you got to understand there's probably going to be a timeline where if she doesn't get what she wants, where she claims some crazy thing about her lawyer. My guess is Lexi Linval watched a few of my stories and said, yeah, you know what? I kind of feel like I know what the truth is and I don't want to defend. I don't know. I have no idea. The way that her lawyer tried to defend her was not necessarily to prove anything, but just to say, according to these cases, we think that this should be dismissed. And then after that, she just wiped her hands of it and walked away. Maybe that was the most ethical way she could represent her. Right now, she only has a lawyer for my case. No idea how that's being funded. But like I said before, ever since she got a lawyer, she stopped harassing me and my lawyer because it would cost her more money. When she can do these things for free, that's where she really shines. When she can, she just sent a cease and desist to the subreddit Justice for Clayton. This subreddit was created to support Clayton Echard after she had previous subreddits disbanded. She's threatened the largest subreddit of Bachelor, the Bachelor world. Has got 300,000 members. She's threatened those moderators with, I'm going to subpoena to find out who you are. I'm going to sue all of you. And they're like, all right, we don't want to deal with it. And it's like, because all of these people kind of cowardly didn't share. Again, other Bachelor podcasters like Nick Viall, we're talking, he's like a top 25 podcast, and he didn't have the balls. He didn't have the spine. I said, Jane Doe's fake babies have more developed spines than Nick Viall did in covering the story. But guess what? Clayton's going on Nick's podcast on Thursday. I'm happy for Clayton. But where was it the 3 months we could have used it? Where was the camaraderie? Where was the social justice everyone preaches in Bachelor Nation to cover this story? Honestly, they weren't there. I refuse to let anybody rewrite history on this one. Not going to happen.
Well, I think you may have a point, because I know that my firm and other law firms routinely gets, okay, I'm in this situation. I don't have a lawyer. I just need someone. Your only job, the only thing we're hiring you to do is to withdraw this lawsuit or to get out of there. And as you were mentioning, it's once you pass a certain point, you need a good reason or an agreement from your client to get out of a case. You can't just quit and walk away one day. The judge can, and it happens quite a bit, especially in criminal cases that are just about to go to trial. The judge will say, sorry, we can't delay this. You know more about the case than anyone else. You've got to stick with it. For her, that may have been as close as it's coming down to the wire. That may have been the only options. Either you got to have a good reason or agree, and they agreed to let her go. That may have been. We have no idea. I haven't seen the motion to withdraw. I've just seen the response to it. So it may very well have been she was just retained for the purpose of saying, let's file this. It didn't work. All right, not my problem. I'm out.
And I've learned. Here's what I've learned. The only time I was ever in the legal system is when I was hit in an accident and I had to do a deposition. Of course, I was the victim. It was all on camera, this and that. But what I've learned is lawyers love to talk. Maybe not publicly. I know you're great over here.
Tick tock. You're on the clock when the lawyers start talking.
A lot of lawyers have talked that represented her in the past. And they have literally apologized to other lawyers saying, we are sorry. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And that's, hey, look, you're hired to do a job. I get it. Yeah, I mean, like she sent me my first cease and desist. Oh, the good old days. She sent me my first cease and desist. It read like I could have asked a fourth grader to write a better, the copy was weird. It looked so fake. But we looked it up and she found it on Up Counsel, which is like a $5 for legal. Yeah. Maybe she paid $20 for this guy. I made fun of it. I was like, oh, this and that. And then because there's so many lawyers following this case. I mean, we have thousands of lawyers following this case, right? Because it's so interesting. Because of that, she went back to this guy. I don't know if his name was Mike, whatever his name was. She went back to this lawyer in I think your home state of Utah, and she was like,
sorry, Utah.
and it's like, why she had to go to Utah to find a lawyer to cover us. So she went back to him online and was like, he's now saying you're a quack lawyer, a $5 lawyer, this and that. And apparently when you ask for help on Up Counsel, it's like a public request. And then I think lawyers can decide to take it or not. Someone in my audience saw it. And then we, of course, shared that video being like, oh, look, she's trying to give me another cease and desist. Hey, Jane, save your money and just eat, whatever. But, it can be scary to us private citizen. I go, she's going to come after me. She's going to do this and that. And what I've had to look my wife dead in the eye and say, is this a case we want to fight? Do we want to fight this? And I've had to say that when it comes down to Jane Doe's side saying, hey, do you want to settle this or whatever? And it's like, why? I'm not doing this for the money. In fact, some of the
months. Why are you doing it?
Well, because it's in my niche. This is what, if I don't do this, I can't look at myself in the mirror and I can't claim to cover the Bachelor news when it's the greatest news story in Bachelor history. So it's about being on the right side of this story. And I hope someone would call me out if I didn't cover this. And that's why I have to call out these other content creators that now that it's safe to talk about are all like, well, let's get it. And I get it. Some content creators, they want to protect their own mental health and all of that. I understand. But it is crickets how many of these so-called peers of mine that I've gone to bat for have gone to bat for me. The ones that have, they are lifetime loyal friends. Mm-hmm. The ones that haven't, I'm not that mad. I just have to call it out and go, Nick, you're supposed to be the top dog in Bachelor Nation. We could have used you on the battlefield.
Well, there's just from what I was saying, there's a lot of Reddit that's not happy with you either, that you're digging into.
I think that's a false. So some of the moderators don't like me, and I've talked to them privately. Now they've been upset because I've kind of had to go hard on people and say, hey guys, where are you? I gave you the benefit of the doubt. Then we waited. Then this came out. Where the hell have you been? And they say, well, we have shared the story. The subreddit that has 300,000 subscribers, they never shared Clayton's GoFundMe. They didn't do the things that were necessary to be done in the time. In hindsight, they're like, well, we shared this, we shared that. He was so close to getting railroaded by her. We got him legal representation. So I don't think it's necessarily Redditors that don't like me. I think everyone who's been covering this case really appreciates it. And it's like, I don't care what they think about me. I'm just trying to be as I've tried to be as impartial until I couldn't. I waited, and I did the same thing with Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. I watched it as long as I could. I said, oh, I'm going to wait till they cross-examine her. I'm going to wait. And then finally I said, okay, I've developed my opinion, and I think we're too quick to jump to conclusions. If you look at my earlier videos on this case, I was like, oh, say it ain't so, Clayton. I really liked you. This is not looking good for you. But I said, but let's wait a second, because a lot of this is cherry picked. We waited. We politely, and this is the news cycle's too fast. We politely waited, and then I changed my opinion. My opinion is she's a fraud. She's a con artist, and I've shown all the evidence as to why I believe that.
And as far as your case goes, is this the hill you're going to die on? You've said that you're not particularly interested in a settlement at the moment.
I don't understand why I would settle, because it's not about money. I'll whatever profit I make, if there's a documentary, which I wouldn't, I would gladly donate that to a charity that can help out for future victims. It's not like I have to show up and do my work. My YouTube's monetized, my podcast is monetized, but it's not about like, I mean, don't get me wrong. If she wanted to, meet me in the alley and give me 10 million, I'm not going to turn it down. Like, there's always a price, right? I've studied economics. So everyone knows that for $50 million, I'll throw my laptop out the window. You'll never hear from me again. But it ain't for 10 grand. It ain't for 50 grand. Like, it's not about that. It's about what it's been about, which is protecting this guy Clayton. And now that we've seen it now that we're seeing it to the finish line, I've learned he has my back. He's been, he knows he's a guy who played on a football team. He knows who his lead blocker has been. I know who mine has been. And that's something she can't understand, that loyalty can't be bought. And that's worth more to me than any amount of money.
Well, it almost sounds like you have principles.
I guess so. I mean, who would have thought? But this happens all the time, right? With comedians. Like, we work for free on stage. There's a reason why Chappelle turned down $50 million. He didn't want to be told what to do. There's a reason we get in. I make YouTube videos in my underwear because I don't want to work a job. I have a business degree. I don't want to do that. I want to do what I want to do. And that's not be bullied to not share my truth. And if sharing my opinion means I have to go fly back to LA after I move to Tennessee and go meet with her in court, fine. But if anyone's gambling out there, I would not place money on this court case going to the date. And I'm telling her this, like, you don't want to hear me angry on the court steps making videos about this after I win. You don't want that. Save face, get out.
And at this point, you're saying the way out is a complete withdrawal of her lawsuit against you.
Well, forget me. I think the most interesting thing she can do, the most interesting TED Talk she could ever make, is get help for whatever issue she has. And then once she's able to speak coherently about this, tell us why you did this. Walk us through why you have an attachment disorder and all, whatever it is. I would watch that from the front row. That would be the most fascinating. If she was a part of the documentary that tells the story here, there was just a recent crypto documentary on Netflix where they had the guy who was the guilty guy, and they shared his side. He's like, I'm a scumbag. I was duping people. I was in too deep. We want to know that story. That's more interesting than finding out how you're the victim of a fake pregnancy scandal. So I think if she can come to terms with that, I think it's the only place she has at this point.
Well, where we're sitting right now with this is the only thing we know is that both sides are in complete agreement that she is not currently pregnant.
We know that. Yes.
I mean, with that, to me, I'm not the brightest guy here, but that leaves four possibilities. She never was pregnant. She had a miscarriage. She gave birth to them, or I guess there's only three.
Or she did something malicious to them. Yeah. The miscarriage and the stillbirth can be under the same category. Yeah.
Yeah. So there can be like abortion, miscarriage. She had them or never was.
And if she claims miscarriage, is she going to claim that a YouTuber bullied her and she was so stressed out that the babies were no longer viable? That's something I will not let. Now, imagine if 2 months ago I agreed and I said, you know what? Because she begged me to take my videos down. Imagine if I agreed, and then 2 years from now, she has a documentary about how she was bullied by me and all that, and then I don't have the evidence up of every single step. The safest thing for me to do We talk about sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. The safest thing for me to do is to let it all out and let everybody see every single turn. She doesn't like that. I told her this. She put it in court papers. I said, you cannot send me an email without me monetizing it. I will monetize a shit. So she needs to know that. She tried to use it against me. I said, no, that's my protection. This is my body cam footage. Okay. I need to share everything with my audience that's going down. If that means she's super offended that I shared what was her quote unquote suicide note, I believe she wasn't suicidal, and she used that to get Clayton to text her. She emailed me telling me if she kills herself, the blood's on my hands. She also said that to multiple people from different times. So she does these crazy things. And again, I never even reported the fact she said if she killed herself, the blood's on my hands. She outed herself in her Medium article. And when she outed herself, everyone, she wanted sympathy, but an audience goes, oh my gosh, you basically used emotional blackmail on him. This is insane.
This is such a weird case.
I'm going to now sound clip you saying that because that was a great sound bite.
It is. I mean, and that's why you're here. I know we talked about that earlier. I got as much information as I could, got some from you, got some from me. And I was reading through this going, all right, I want to do just a couple of my normal streams where we read the documents, we talk about them, we analyze them. And the more I read, the more I can't wrap my head around anything that's happening here. And so we need someone to come on and explain this to me in some sort of coherent way. And
can I briefly shout out this other aspect we didn't talk about?
Absolutely. I guess if it's going to make me more confused, go ahead. I'm
going to be as quick as possible. Mid-October, I get a press release from somebody named Chase J. Jones. This press release was sent, my guess is, to hundreds of news outlets. No one picked up the story, but the press release wrote that Clayton Echard has an N-word problem. And what they were implying in the headline is that he's been saying the N-word. It was an article meant to cancel Clayton Echard. So much so that at the very last paragraph, it says, this is why we should cancel Clayton Echard. This article was basically saying it's not right that he's dancing to songs on TikTok that have the N-word in them. Basic rap songs, right? I read it as a white guy going, I don't think this is a real concern people have. And then I waited for, the community to be like, no one cares about this. This is ridiculous. Support rappers, play their music. If that's whatever. Well, Chase J. Jones claims to go to Howard. He didn't say Howard University. He said Howard, which we assume is a historical Black university. Yeah. Chase J. Jones is a second-year journalism student. They had two different email addresses. One was like the Bachelor boy, and one was a Gmail account. Chase J. Jones then on October 19th joins my Patreon. If anyone wants to join, patreon.com/Dave Neal. They join the Patreon, and so I know they're a member of my community. We start to look into them because it's very obvious that this is most likely Jane Doe. Why would anyone try to cancel Clayton Echard other than Jane Doe? No one else has a bone to pick with him. He's just a nice guy selling houses. No one has a bone. You know what I mean? He's not that famous. If you're going to cancel people for dancing to the N-word, there's about 1 million more famous people you could go to. We look at the VPN. We try to find out the tracking of where these emails are coming from. They go to Paris, France. Okay, that's odd. We really believe that she's Chase J. Jones. There was 2 different words used by Chase J. Jones and Jane Doe that was demonstrably in the way she spelled shush. Very simple things. She does certain Chase J. Jones sent me the video of Clayton dancing. Jane Doe sent a video of the ultrasound. Both of those videos had the same codec that was from the same operating system. So not exactly a fingerprint as to who it is, but super close. 10 different things. The domain for one of the Chase J. Jones email addresses went back to Tempe, Arizona, miles away from where she lives. When we subpoenaed for Chase J. Jones, because Patreon was useless, they wouldn't give us the billing records. Guess who no longer is on my Patreon? Chase J. Jones. They never deleted it. They just disappeared. We know they joined. I have the evidence there. We don't know where they went. In the subpoena, Chase J. Jones is trying to quash the subpoena. And my lawyer said 3-4 different times, if you just Shoot us a Zoom call, FaceTime us, show us your identity. We'll leave you alone. But we want to confirm who you are. No. Rather than pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm just some idiot who was pranking him or whatever. Rather than doing that, she filed all these motions to quash the subpoena. Then also the address that they list is in Seattle. Oh, well, that's not Arizona. It must not be her. But then we get to the address in Seattle. It's a virtual PO box, which means you could have done it from anywhere. Mm-hmm. You could have done that from Korea, right? So we're waiting to see.
My virtual PO box is in Florida. So
yeah, there you go. Right. So we're hell bent. Chase J. Jones would be the easiest. If we can link that to her, that would be the easiest way for him to prove defamation, that she's actually creating a black college student to prove her point. I mean, she didn't just want Clayton to pay. She wanted to humiliate him. She wanted to drag him through the mud, through gossip rags. You know, the only people that printed the story was the Sun, but she sent it to all the other gossip rags. And she's done a pretty good job of covering her tracks with Chase J. Jones. But until we solve the case of Chase J. Jones, I kind of, in my opinion, believe it's her.
Wow, that's a twist. don't know what to do with that one.
How ridiculous that she would do that. I mean, that's in Chase J. Jones wrote a Medium article. She wrote a Medium article. It's like, I mean, sure, we haven't been able to track it back to her, but can't you find somebody in the good Lord's year of 2024? The fact that we can't find a record for Chase J. Jones, who the hell are you? And so far, signs point at her.
Chase, my brother, my sister, whichever you are, Chase, if you're out there, hit me up. We'll put you on. You can clear it all up. We'll do it tomorrow. Whatever I got going, I'll put aside. Chase, give me your bona fides, and we'll clear up this mess right here. Now.
For someone trying to cancel somebody else, Chase J. Jones is very shy. Just so you know, very shy.
Oh God! So as the matter stands now, we just have both sides say she's not pregnant. She's filed the motion to withdraw very, very quickly. She wants it to expedite it. She wants to expedite it out of here, and he is saying, Well, as we were talking about earlier, time out. It's not that simple. There's more to it than just wanting this to go away.
And what's so funny is that in her court papers for the expedited dismissal, she goes, why do you want to keep this thing going? We don't need to clog up the legal system. And I'm like, hello, why don't you dismiss your case against me then? If we're not trying to clog up the legal system, it's just like insane how she'll twist anything. She should be a yoga teacher. The contortion she's doing to in the hypocrisy that exists. It's like, I always say this, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, right? Stop doing that. Stop doing this to everybody. We're not idiots. You know what I mean?
And he, I mean, clearly I can see his point that they want to say this either never happened, or if it did happen, it wasn't mine.
Right. Because he's like, look, maybe she was pregnant. Maybe someone could have not. He can't prove that. But what he can do is prove it wasn't his. And in that process, I think what helps his case, if he does want to sue her for defamation, I mean, look, her family might have some money. I mean, he was making his living doing speaking engagements for self-help because he had such bad, he was at such a low after his season of The Bachelor, and people were making fun of him. Even the podcast he's going on Thursday made fun of him. Other Bachelor leads were like, I would have handled this differently. Like, people were so snooty to a victim that we have to just like, and again, I have not once during this 90 minutes said, well, if it was the other way around, but imagine if it were the other way around. Would it have taken this long? Is it because he's 6'5" and he can bench press 280? Is that why it took this long for justice? I'm not a men's rights guy. You know what I mean? I'm not like, my audience is all women. Most cases in my crowd are like pro women. It's mostly men being F-boys and the guy that put the tracking device on the girl. Like, I've got a track record here that this is just where the facts lay.
Well, I mean, you do have an interesting market there that you're saying. I mean, the vast majority have got to. Do you have any? What's the percentages?
My audience is 92% women on YouTube. And then Chase J. Jones, whatever that.
That's actually higher than I thought it would be. I figured there'd be around 20%.
Look, we love our men.
20% men.
I love it when women will drag their husbands and boyfriends to a stand-up show because they're like, oh, I got to go see this guy. And it's like, I'm a guy. Like I make jokes for men, but like this audience happens to be a ravenous female base. And that's what's interesting is I'm like a progressive guy, right? But like the right hates me, the left hates me, there's Reddit hates me. It's like, I'm just telling you my opinion. It's like, if this is a buffet, you don't have to watch me, but eyeballs have been drawn to this because I guess people were afraid to share what they think about this. Everyone's just afraid. I get it. But like at some point we need to stick up for the truth here. It's more important than how it affects my mental health.
How many of these women are siding with you, and how many are going, now come on, let's give her a chance? I'll be honest,
I don't know one person. I don't know one person that's on her side. Not one. Her sister hasn't spoken out. I guess you could say her father did a pro post for her on Facebook, which we believe might have been her. But I don't know one person. Now, initially, we were all like, oh boy, Clayton, this doesn't look good. But even at that time, I was like, hold on, guys, let's wait. She's cherry picking quotes. Yeah, Clayton says he hates her, but let's find out why. So initially people were like, oh man, F him. Because, I think everyone's been scorned by somebody. And with an audience full of women, there's people that feel like men are getting away with, things. If it was the reverse, an audience full of men, there would be incels that think, oh, all women suck or whatever. In this case, these women all wanted to believe her. You can look at early on, they wanted to believe her. They're smart. They did their own thinking and critically came up to the point that she was lying to their face. So I always said this, women are great at two things, right? They're good at elevating other women and they're good at slamming people down. And they have slammed her down because she's not been truthful to them and they feel like they've been duped. And when you feel like you've been duped, that's why Clayton, so her past like MO, right? She would get away with things because guys no one had the money to fight her. Now you've got lawyers that aren't doing this for the money. You've got people like me that aren't doing this for the money, that are just saying, we need to see this through for my own protection. Like, sure, it'd be nice to make a buck or two, but for my own protection, I don't need a documentary coming out in 3 years about how I'm the bad guy because we only heard this fabricated fan fiction that she wants to tell. No, I live in reality and I'm going to share that reality. And everybody that's heard her side first has come to me and now seen the truth.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. That's what we, I guess, talked about right at the beginning, is we are hearing the one side of the story is what we're hearing from you and from Clayton's side. But why are we only hearing the one side of the story? She's not putting it out there. She's not putting the evidence out there. She's not showing her submissions, where she could be doing exactly the same thing.
I'll tell you what, man, we could go another 24 hours on this. Did you know that you can do horse showings pregnant with twins at 20 weeks? She was photographed at a horse showing, riding a horse, jumping over things with twins. The only reason she canceled the next event was because people found out she was going to be there. She tried to do it under a pseudonym. So the story, like, she's trying to live multiple lives. She thinks she lives in a reality where she can get away with it. I don't know if I truly don't want this to affect her mental health in a negative way, but consequences exist. And I think the collateral damage in presenting Clayton's truth is that she's a con artist. And that's something that I have to be okay with because I've chosen to elevate his story. And if that means people then look at her as some crazy liar, then that's their own assumption. If people that have only heard this from me, I mean, please go out there, go look at the timelines, get involved, and then come back to me and go, wow, Dave, you said everything that was 100% the truth.
Yeah. And I searched for a while today and I could find nothing from her side. I mean, you can say, well, her lawyers are telling her not to do this or whatnot, but we're operating in a vacuum here where I would love to see another side to this story. It's just not there. If somebody's got it, let me know what it is, because that's what we see. And that's what I'm saying. It's who can prove what. And so far I'm seeing where the evidence is lying.
Yeah, I mean, you know, she won an order of protection against Clayton in a case where he wasn't allowed to present the evidence on his side, and he won the case where he was allowed to present the evidence. The case she made against Clayton was that he was guilty of leaking her photos to the internet, when in fact she posted them publicly on her own Dropbox. It's the same case she has against me with revenge porn, which, by the way, are not naked images. It's an image of her belly from the neck down, blurred out her face, and she's wearing a bra. She shared that with the internet, and I shared it to say this isn't real. And you know, to think the FBI is looking into revenge porn cases, it's like, what world do we live in? What world do we live in? And luckily, I make my living doing this, and I'm properly platformed to handle it. But if I were, and my lawyer was saying this the other day, he's like, well, who does he think you are? It's just some like real estate agent who wants this to go away. What she needs to understand, these are like that toy where when you pull apart the fingers, it gets tighter. And that's why I tell her this. Look, everything she does to manipulate this will be used against her. And if she doesn't, she might get away with this in the courts, but in the court of public opinion, we're still looking at all this evidence, you know, because a lot of these court systems don't seem to talk to each other. You know, with Clayton's case, they didn't want to hear the past story. And Clayton's lawyers were like, there's a pattern here. And they're like, yeah, well, we don't want to hear it. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you need to see the pattern. So we've just looked at the pattern.
Are there people out there that still don't understand that the internet is forever?
I think there's brats out there who are used to getting their way, and the internet teaches them that doesn't always happen.
I mean, if you, I'm an old fuck. I mean, I'm 54 years old, and I just know that it's forever. Anything you put there is going to be there and can rear its ugly head at some point.
And, you know, look, as a stand-up comedian, that's why I don't judge people too harshly. If you had a joke that you wrote when you were first-year comedian and it was trying to be edgy, and I'm not trying to cancel you. I want to know where you stand today. So that's why, like, this would all, like, we all said this. If she admits to all of this, we no longer have a story to talk about. I move on to some stupid stuff about what everyone wore at the Golden Globes. You know what I mean? Somebody has a missing diamond ring at the Golden Globes. Let's go. I'm done with this story when she's no longer lying. But in the meantime, it's in my interest to pursue this. So I'm not the cancel type. I'm not overly hard on people. I want her to get help and live whatever fulfilling life she can. But also, these men need to be championed in a way that we understand they weren't the liars. They're not going to get their legal costs back. I don't think anything that's going to happen. But I'm not suing her for defamation. You know what I mean? I'm not coming after her. I'm just defending my right to tell this story.
Well, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you getting the revenge out of this?
I truly just the community that supported me, that fills my well. I mean, I'm not, what do I need? Like, I haven't lost any money, or, I mean, could I sue her for the damage she's done by lying about me? I mean, if she continues to, but I haven't even tried to get her article taken down. Leave it up. Let the audience find me. I know how the internet works, and I am confident in my story. So I'm okay with that. Truth, that's all I need.
I'm really interested to see what happens between now and, was it January 17th? Is that the date?
That's her deposition for her non-paternity hearing is January 17th. Now that she doesn't have a lawyer, I'm sure she's Googling what to do about this. I don't know what the next step is, but I know Clayton's lawyers are anxiously awaiting that to happen. And yeah, we'll see what happens after that. I mean, she's already lied under oath. In my opinion, she's lied through her teeth that she was pregnant multiple times. And they did such a good job of cross-examining her and getting on record all of the different doctors she's claimed she's worked with. So now they can hopefully subpoena for some records. I just hope the judge knows that while this might drag on this court case a little bit, it'll probably prevent future court cases similar to this. So it's like, take the time, get it right. And let's just like make an example, but not in a way that puts a head on a spike. Just make an example, like let the world know there are some consequences here.
And I think that is the easy way out is to go, all right, let's just everybody, no harm, no foul, wash our hands, and walk away. Let the withdrawal take its course. But I get why he's refusing to do that.
And I know that the victory lap never feels as good as you think it would. I've had instances where like I've had enemies, like, like just casual comedians where like, oh, when I do better than them, and then I do better, and I go, well, I don't really care about them. I'm moving forward. I think Clayton will want to move forward. I know Greg, he's got a baby coming weeks away. He wants to move forward. I personally don't think they'll like really drag her in the defamation way if it ends now. But I could see money being raised for him to continue to fight this if this court case gets dismissed. Because I think in a civil court system, then it's like if they go on the offensive and come after her, I think that's a different story. I think what she needs to do is just take the loss. I know her lawyers are trying to communicate to her like, hey, it's not looking good for you. Her lawyers in my case. I know that inner circle sources I've talked to are saying, get her off the internet. Like, you got to quit putting gasoline on this. Everything she's doing is working against her for the first time ever. She's 33. She needs to realize like it's up. It's over. Like, just admit to it and like, let's move on. I was the first to say this. If she was strapped for cash and needed money for like a mental health facility, my audience would raise it. If she's admitting she's wrong and needs help, like we're as charitable as it comes. But we're just not there yet.
I mean, that would be incredibly generous of your chat to do. Are you being facetious with that, or do you think they are actually that good?
I truly not. I think if she clearly it looks. I mean that we in my morning podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour, we shared a psych evaluator saying, hey, she's not psychotic, she's not this, she's not that, but clearly she's got a mental health issue. People say it's a cluster B personality disorder. It's this, it's that. Whatever it is that forces her to like need these men, I can look at this and feel really bad for the inner child there. I truly can. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I truly don't want a victory lap where she's this just destroyed person. No. Like there's gotta be some sort of like, I don't think she needs to do hard time. She needs to realize what she did was wrong. She needs the right help. She needs to get rid of these enablers, which might be her mom. Maybe, she does come from a family that's quite established in their careers. Maybe the family's afraid it's going to affect their family image. But I'll tell you what, like, look at the men that it's actually affected. You know what I mean? Like, let's just end this now. So but I can't say, well, because you're feeling bad, I'm going to take all my videos down. No, like that, that's not the course. That doesn't, I'm not going to reward that behavior.
Wow. There's so much to look, and like, people are thinking, okay, well, now we've got the whole story. This is the foundational story that we've been talking about. This is just to help me wrap my brain around the basics of this.
Yeah, like the opening credits just closed.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't even really the first act. So there's got to be a ton of court filings. Maricopa County, where this is driving me insane because they're not like every other court system where you can download all of the submissions electronically. Dealing with.
Oh yeah, we had people that requested the court live stream and they sent it to them on a CD disc.
Oh, what?
I gotta go play a CD disc, and it doesn't play on MacBook, so like I couldn't even access it. I was like, oh my gosh, can I get a VCR copy of this?
I don't even know when the last computer I owned was that had a CD drive on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
God, my office computer is like 15 years old. It doesn't have one.
Floppy disk.
Yes, I mean, we get spoiled. Us law tube people get spoiled because you can just go to the court. Oh, hey, this is the document that was filed on this day. You download it, you read it, and you're there. They just tell you what the document was, and you just can't download it. It's frustrating that way, which is why I'm saying, upload your stuff, Jane Doe. Let me see it. Let me read it. And let me decide there, because I've got some of the other documents, and there's no way we're going to get to these the motion. What's What is it is the response to, I love the titles of legal documents.
Imagine me. I went to public school. This was a crash course. I don't know what any of this stuff means.
Yeah. The one I do, and we'll read it. It's a 59-page submission. It's the response objection to petitioner's motion to dismiss petition to establish paternity, legal decision making, parenting time, and child support with prejudice.
Yeah, like that's a Derek Zoolander title. That is the most interesting of the documents. That is the one that includes the coercions, the emails, the threats. I mean, they included everything in the kitchen sink in that one to say, let's see this case through. I mean, they did not let one stone go unturned.
And those are the three documents I have that I do want to read. And I'm going to have to do a separate stream for. We'll do this next week because you have a lot of stuff coming up this week we'll talk about here in just a minute. And I don't want to step on any of that because it seems like most of it happens at the same time I'm streaming. So one is an article that she has published on Medium. Yes. The Unveiling the Unbearable, My Battle Against Cyberbullying and Online Harassment. It's all about this guy.
The big bad wolf.
And that is also attached to an expedited motion to extend dismissal date on inactive calendar and schedule an evidentiary hearing. So she would have filed the motion to withdrawal, and I guess this was put on inactive status at some point. Obviously, just by the title of the document, it's put on inactive status because it's not going anywhere.
And the only reason it's no longer inactive is because the Medium article she wrote about me pissed off so many people that they said, we can't let this go. It almost revealed what her game plan is. They go, all right, we can't, like, this thing's about to go away and she's about to get away with it. And they wouldn't let that happen. I didn't have to ask anybody. They did this. I thought I was just alone out there reading these mean things she's saying about me. And then I find out that they have this full-on brigade. Just it's like at that war, just at the end of the war, I'm about to lose. Yeah. Then all of a sudden the helicopters come over the hill and the tanks come and I'm kissing some French lady and the whole thing. And it's like, oh, good, thank you. We got backup.
Yeah, so there was apparently a dismissal date that was set, and now Clayton's lawyers want to extend that a bit, and then they also want to make sure that it's not dismissed before there is the deposition. So these are the three documents that I want to look at. And we'll look at them separately because I can't do it tomorrow, can't do it the next day. Tell us what you got coming up here, first of all.
I have a cross-country move on Saturday, so I'm very busy this week. I'm going to get an ultrasound of my beautiful soon-to-be-born son. We're 24 weeks pregnant. I'm going to go.
Make sure it's yours. Make sure it's not.
It's all my wife's. I think it's mine. She's been, whatever. But you can never know. I got to get sponsored by Ravgen here. I've got some stand-up shows coming up in Tennessee, so people can follow me on Instagram. But if anyone feels like this story is ridiculous, the best way to support me right now is to subscribe to my YouTube and my podcast. Just type in Bachelor Rush Hour on your phone, hit subscribe. I'm going to be giving an update this afternoon. I can't wait to tell my audience that hasn't watched this live stream to check you out. So I'm going to be recapping this show, and I'm just going to continue to give updates and be as honest as possible. But if anyone wants news in bite-sized form, with a little bit of, more humor, hopefully, than I can bring for this heavy case, Bachelor Rush Hour. Yeah.
Well, and tomorrow you've got a live stream set up for tomorrow with.
Tomorrow's Megan Fox. That's right. And then the Umbrella Guy on Thursday. And then my in-laws arrived to help us move. So I got lawyers and in-laws. We're all over the place here. Got to be on my best behavior.
So I mean, I'm small potatoes here. Tug's got a little bit of a reach to him.
I mean, look, I know he's got his own group of people that have been upset with his coverage, and I hope he'll look at it with open eyes, because I don't want people to look at this with any vendetta against her. Come into this neutral. I don't need anyone on my side. You'll get there. Trust me.
Oh yeah, and that is one important thing. I know my chat is like the coolest. I'm apologies to your chat, but my chat's like the coolest on the entire YouTube platform. But now there seems to be some overlap, so yay for both of us, I guess. Don't harass the woman. Don't talk to her. Don't communicate with her. Don't reach out. Just read, review, watch, and don't harass her. That gets no brownie points for anyone involved, and it makes Dave's life worse, my life worse, everybody's life worse. Just don't do it.
And what a wild time now that people will use that against you. Like, all I can do is share the truth, and people, oh, you're platforming all this hate. No, you're the hateful person if you want to do that. We've never reached out to her. We've never done any of that. She's it's all been her offensive. So yeah, anyone in the audience, we got this under control. Just watch the ride.
And tomorrow morning, Megan Fox. Thursday morning, I guess, or there's Thursday evening. Tug usually does the evening.
Yes, right.
Yes, usually it'll sort of be a Thursday evening with Tug, and then you've got a move coming up, and depending on, I guess, what happens with this, I'll be doing. I'll read these 3 things probably Tuesday of next week is when I'll read through these documents and give my thoughts and comments on them. If I can find something else between now and then to read as well, we'll add that to it. I know you'd said 90 minutes and you've given us 20 extra, and it's about that time to wrap up, I guess. I want to talk to you for another 24 hours about this.
Once I'm set up in my new location, you got me. Like, let's do it.
Like right now I'm going, okay, I think I have a basic grasp on just the basics of what happened. And it's just wild. It's taken 2 hours to explain this rationally and coherently. There's just so much going on in this. In this case, forget about the previous 2 cases or 3 cases or however the hell many there are.
I mean, I think once this gets the publicity it deserves, which is happening this week, she'll no longer be able to silence people. And I think my guess is more people will come out of the woodworks to talk about this. You just can't imagine that these are just the people that went through the court system here.
Well, as a comedian, you're doing something that's incredibly not funny with this case.
It's a tough needle to thread talking about this. That's for sure.
And I definitely want to have you on to talk about something a little more lighthearted and a little more amusing and banter worthy.
I cover there's a contestant from The Bachelor that just had their baby shower. Like, those videos I make covering that are the funniest because I just talk about swaddles and nipple chafing cream. Those are the fun ones.
Yes.
But it's like, this is the broccoli. You know what I mean? Like, this is I gotta cover this so I can cover the other stuff. They all kind of work hand in hand.
And I do want to thank you for taking 2 hours out of your time at 5 o'clock in the morning to do this.
Dude, I've been telling people I am here to talk to anybody at any time of day. Like, this is important for my family protection, for my business, and for everything. It's important that I continue to talk about this. So it's my pleasure. And, have me back on when I'm in Tennessee. I'll be 2 hours ahead of time. So it'll only be a 7 a.m. wake up when I'm over there.
All right, we got looks like nine super chats and things to get through here. Some of them deal with you. So if you got about 10 more minutes,
sure,
we'll wrap it. 9 minutes is my goal here. We'll see.
Okay,
my ADHD kind of cuts into that sometimes. LA, I went to school in Rhode Island with a comedian named Dave Neal. Did you go to PHS and were you a drum major? Either way, small world. Thanks for fighting for justice.
I was the band president. So yes, they got the right Dave. That's me.
Oh, LA, it's a small world, ain't it?
Yeah. Wow. I wonder who that is. They know it's me. They know that's me, whoever that is.
Well, he knows how to get a hold of you. Megan Fox for Doggo Cam. Yeah, we have an unlocking the Doggo Cam achievement. Actually, the dogs aren't even here in the room because they were just being fucking assholes before the stream, so I had to keep them outside.
I had to ban my dog as well. I used to pick my dog up, but he's 15 now, and whenever I pick him up, he usually poops, so I had to stop picking him up.
I've got 2 English bulldogs. I slip a disc if I try to pick either of them up.
Right? Yeah. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, we just usually turn the camera on after a while, but they were just being dicks today. And I had to ban them. But and also we have a guest. We don't need to be introducing slobbery dogs to the first time people are on here. M. Young gifted a Legal Vices membership. Thank you so much for that. Oh, and thank you, Megan, as always. Much appreciated. M. Young, thank you for joining me and also giving a gift to somebody else. So if you got that, I hope you thanked M. Young for that. Hey Joe, release the hounds. We're not there. We'll do it. We'll do it tomorrow. Don't worry about that. We'll do that tomorrow. The dogs will come tomorrow if they're behaving. And Tammy F released the hounds. Everybody wants the dogs. Equality. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, everyone. Release the hounds. The dogs tomorrow. I promise. Jeff, thank you for covering this. Also, release the tomorrow. Thank you, Becca. And Linz, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Equality says, I think Dave is ultimately helping her mental health by stopping her, which is very nice. Thanks for doing this, gentlemen. Dave, you're doing the internet lord's work, I guess.
I think she's right, but I'm not going to take credit for that. I'm not, but I think she's right. I think we need Jane Doe to hit her bottom with the truth here, and I don't think she's accepting that.
And again, there's an open invitation. If she wants a platform to put out her side of the story, I'll give her equal time, because we got one side of the story, albeit a very compelling side of the story, because I have evidence from this side of the story. That option is there. But in the meantime, again, seriously, we'll do something more fun. This is just insane.
You're not having fun? Come on, this is fun, right?
Well, this is fun for this is what lawyers consider fun.
Yeah, this is just an amusement ride, right?
It's crazy, it's insane, but it's also people's lives. Not just Clayton's life. Jane Doe's life is also wrapped up in this, for better or worse. It affects everybody involved, quite literally. And one way or the other, it's going to come to a head. Somebody's going to get the referee to raise their arms at the end of the day. And everybody needs peace in this. There's got to be some way that everybody can get a win out of this, even though there's got to be a loser at some point. This is nuts. So, but I sounded very, very reasonable there for a minute. It kind of scared me. It's not. Anyway, mods, thank you so much for being here and doing your moddy things. My mods like you, by the way. So.
Oh, good.
They're not Reddit mods. and chat, my diehards, Dave's diehards that are here, and those of you that overlap, thank you for being here. Thank you for the support as always. I'm gonna send you off wherever YouTube's gonna send you off next. If you got a couple seconds, hang around for just a quick second, Dave. We'll talk to you right after we go. Guys, thanks. We'll see you tomorrow. God knows what I'm going to talk about. Haven't decided yet. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart, Dave, for bringing this to our attention, for bringing it out here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
We'll have you back once you're settled in. All right, folks. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.